Good morning, neighbors. It's time for Good Bits. Good Bits is your daily dose of good news. So take a break from the outrage, turn off the other news, and let's just talk about three good things this morning. All right, so the first good bit I want to talk about is a book. It's actually a book series, and so Dragon Con was this weekend. It's in Atlanta every Labor Day weekend, and it is just a big festival for science fiction and fantasy. And so they have Dragon Awards, where they give out awards for the best science fiction and fantasy media of the last year. So TV shows and books, etc. And winner of Book of the Year was Babylon's Ashes, which is the fifth book. I don't know. I held up my four fingers, but it's the fifth book in a series called The Expanse. And so this was recently turned into a TV show. I mentioned it, I think, last week. My favorite new TV show the last couple of years, and so it's a really interesting science fiction book set about 300 years in the future in a world that you will mostly recognize. So it's not a far off future with science that doesn't really make sense. It's really more realistic in the terms of what we might be able to do in the next 200 to 300 years. So it's called, the first novel in the series is called Leviathan Wakes. And then from there are 5 entries so far. There's going to be a total of 7 or 8. 9. I might have all the numbers off, but Leviathan Wakes is where you start, and then you can find the rest on Amazon. All right, so good bit number 2. I've got a 4-month-old baby, and she cries. And so it was interesting to read this story in the New York Times about babies crying, all mammal babies, and how they cry and why they cry. We obviously have done research before that shows, that the sound of a baby crying is something that we hear more quickly than other sounds. It just pierces through, background noise and all other things to reach our ears. So even if you're not a parent or it's not your kid, a baby crying will still get your attention. And so this study found that babies, the cries not only get our attention, but they cause us to move to action faster than a dog barking, or like hearing someone else cry when just weeping. But if we hear a baby cry, we immediately want to get up and move to action. And there's actually a very small part of the brain that is in control of crying, and our babies crying specifically. And interesting thing is that small part of the brain also controls how fast we breathe. And so if you take that part of the brain out, it's like 17,000 neurons. You can take that part of the brain out, and babies don't cry, but they also can't breathe faster. And so it's a determining factor on whether or not those babies will survive. So it's a really interesting read. I'm going to post a link in the show notes. There's some cute stuff in there that kind of takes away from the tone of the article as science, but the meat of the article is really interesting as far as the science of babies crying. All right, good bit number 3. So I follow this guy on Twitter named Jeff Kanata, who hosted a show that I watch called The Totally Rad Show about video games and movies, TV shows, a lot of the things that I get super excited about. And he, a couple years ago before The Force Awakens came out, talked about going into that movie unsullied, so avoiding spoilers, avoiding trailers. And it's just something that I'm not real good about avoiding all the teasers and all the spoilers, but I do kind of set a cutoff date where I just don't want to know anything more from this point forward that they start revealing. And so I've kind of hit that with The Last Jedi. I'm good to know the name. I've seen the first trailer, but I'm not watching any of the extra trailers or behind the scenes. I mean, even the toys have spoiled a little bit of it for me, and I'm not super upset about it or whatever, but I don't want to know. I want to go into the movie and be surprised by what happened. It was good advice to me, and so hopefully you'll find that same advice. As just if you're interested in a movie, instead of consuming everything related to it, give yourself a cutoff date where you stop learning new things and go into the movie with fresh eyes and with an unspoiled mind. All right, so that wraps up Good Bits for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll be back tomorrow with some more good news. Until then, go out and spread some good goodness.